Oy vey. The Browns are cooked. And I'm saying this as a staunch, long-suffering Browns fan. I was a little dog pound kid watching the Cardiac Kids with Brian Sipe. I've been through the glory years with Bernie Kosar, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield. Browns went away, they came back. Old Browns became the Baltimore Ravens, and the Ravens has won like 2 Super Bowls since then. I went to see the team go from Art Modell as owner to Jimmy Haslam as owner. I've seen a lot, but they just fell apart. They just went to the playoffs last year. Now, Dan Orlovsky said from ESPN, he said they're the worst situation in pro sports. I don't agree with that at all. Like, they're in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are far worse than the Browns. It's been a while since the Panthers went to the playoffs, and they look horrible. And I think the Chicago White Sox lost like 100 games recently. So, no, the Browns aren't in a bad spot. And they went to the playoffs last year. Now, it was a different quarterback. It was Joe Flacco and not Deshaun Watson. Honest to God, I don't know what happened to Deshaun Watson. Like, when he was in Houston, and people seem to forget this, he was one of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the league. He had touch. He could run. He could outmaneuver people. Man, he was like his old college coach said, he was Michael Jordan, on the football field. And he was. And then all that stuff, all those civil suits happened. The Texans sat him down for a year. Then the NFL suspended him after he signed with the Browns. And he hasn't been the same guy since. It reminds me, you don't see it too much now, like when dudes in the NFL used to sit out. They had a contract dispute and they would sit out for a year and they would come back and they weren't the same person. It's like that's what happened to Deshaun. It's almost like he forgot how to play football. Now, he might not be a good fit in Coach Stefanski's system. Like, Coach Stefanski's system is the same system they're running in Minnesota. And when you see Sam Darnold, who's basically a pocket passer, if he can run if he needs to. But I think Stefanski's system is really built for a pocket passer. And I think that the thing about Deshaun was that when he was in Houston, he was a lot more of a freelancer. I think that's why Baker Mayfield, when he was in Cleveland, probably didn't fit Stefanski's offense that well, because I think Baker is also a sandlot type of player. And Stefanski's tried. He's been trying to change. He's been trying to change the system to fit these guys, but it hasn't worked. And then Joe Flacco comes in. So Deshaun gets hurt last year. Flacco, who was just sitting around, just chilling, they say, "Hey, you want to play for us?" "Sir." He go off the couch, brush off the Cheetos. "I'll be right there." Goes to the Browns and then start putting up 300 yards. It was the craziest thing, because this season of the Browns were very much like last season. It was different, though, because Deshaun, he was playing bad, but he was also hurt. He gets hurt. They put in DTR. They drafted him last year, I think out of UCLA, I think. And DTR, he gets hurt, and they had no other options. They had guys, but it was almost like the season was almost done. And then they signed Flacco, and Flacco fits Stefanski's offense perfectly. Like, all of a sudden, like, Cooper was just catching balls left and right. And Joko became the tight end, because forever people say, man, he's a great tight end. And you saw splashes of that, but with Flacco, he became an all-pro. Like, Flacco was great for the Browns, but they let him go and didn't give Flacco a contract. Now, I understand it, because they didn't want the headache. One, Deshaun was coming back. They was hoping that Deshaun, after the injury, would be better. But they didn't want to have a quarterback controversy, because they couldn't trade Deshaun. It'd be totally different if they were able to trade Deshaun, because I think if they were able to trade Deshaun and keep Flacco, I think they would have done it. But no one was going to take Deshaun in that contract. So they didn't want to go into training camp with people. If Deshaun throws his first interception in training camp, people start yelling for Flacco. And it just wasn't going to work. Now, technically, they probably should have signed Flacco, because Flacco went unsigned. Like, nobody signed Flacco, which is crazy, until the Colts. And the Colts signed him as a backup. Like, there's a lot of teams, like Carolina could have used Flacco. Miami could have used Flacco in a lot of ways, even though they had their guy, he could have been a good backup in Miami, but no one signed Flacco except for the Colts. And he's been filling in for Richardson because Richardson got hurt, and he's been putting up 300 yards again. Damn you. It's crazy seeing Flacco do all these things. Now, to be fair, in the playoffs, when Flacco was winning with the Browns, he's throwing a lot of touchdowns, but also a lot of interceptions. And then when they played Houston, which I knew was a bad matchup because Stroud and that team was killing everybody towards the end of last season. And I've always felt like that was a bad matchup. And Flacco played his worst game as a Brown. He threw nothing but interceptions, and that was that. So then Deshaun comes back this year, and he's lost everything. Like, he's not the same guy he was. And even if he gets into another system, I don't think he'll ever be that guy again. So what happens now? I don't know. Like, the Browns are 1-4, and the thing is, I was looking at I have to start thinking about the draft. The April 2025 draft. It's like, oh my God, they're not going to get better. But especially with Baltimore and Cincinnati and the Steelers in that division. I was looking at the draft order, and the Browns right now are like number 3 or 4. But there's 6 teams that's 1-4. 2 of those teams will get better. Jacksonville's 1-4, and so they'll get better, a little bit better. Cincinnati's 1-4, which is crazy. But by the end of the season, they'll probably win 9, 10 games, 11 games because they have their quarterback, and it's a good team. I don't know why they're 1-4. They're just having a slow start. But Cleveland's got to draft another quarterback next year. The lucky thing now is that all the Texans picks with the Browns is done. It's done now, so that's over with. So the Browns do have their first-round pick, so they definitely will be in the top 4, top 5, especially if they play like this. Even if Deshaun gets hurt, let's say they bench Deshaun and they put in Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston actually fits Stefanski's system a little bit better than Deshaun, but you're not going to win anything with Jameis. It's not Jameis' fault. He's just not Flacco. I can't see Jameis leading the Browns to the playoffs. And in fact, I don't want Jameis leading the Browns to the playoffs because I think the AFC North and the AFC overall is not strong this year, surprisingly. There's Kansas City and then there's everybody else. So, yeah, it'd be nice to see the Browns get into the playoffs. But at this point, I think I'd rather just see them just tank the year and just just start over next year. Now, people say, well, they should have kept Baker Mayfield. People seem to forget. At that time, Baker was up for a max extension. And Baker's another one of those guys where I think he'll always put you in the game, but I don't think he's a guy. He's not Tom Brady. Like, he's not going to lead you to a championship. I think he wins a lot of games. I think he tries hard. But I think also the difference with Baker now versus then is that Tampa Bay Baker is different than Cleveland Baker. Cleveland Baker was still immature. He would still throw his teammates under the bus from time to time. I think he still butted heads with the staff from time to time. And he had to get humbled a bit because he went to Carolina. I think when he went to Carolina, I think he felt like, okay, here's my chance to prove everybody wrong. And it flopped. But it flopped for him and Darden. For Carolina, it's just a bad situation because Darnold's like one of the top passers in the league with Minnesota, playing in Stefanski's system. So Baker, it flamed out in Carolina. He went to the Rams, got better coaching, but was still a backup, played a few games, started a few games, looked good. I actually thought he should have stayed in with the Rams, but then he went to Tampa Bay, and he knew that was his last shot to being a starter. If it didn't work in Tampa Bay, I think Baker would have been a career backup, but it worked. But also, he became a father. He's a little bit older. He's been through some things. I think he's better with the media. Like, he's better with the media. He's better with his teammates. And all that fire he has is just more mature now. So I know people look at Baker Mayfield, oh my God, they should have kept him. But I don't know if he would have progressed like he is now because of everything he's gone through the past few years. So there's that. So what do you guys think about the Browns? Do you, because there's not I don't think there's another Flacco, unless they make some type of crazy trade. There's not another Flacco out there for them just to find, sitting around eating Cheetos. It's like, oh, I'm coming. I don't think they find that guy. So what do you think? Do you think they should just play out the season and get that top pick to get a new quarterback? Or do you think they should play Jameis, sit Deshaun down, play Jameis, and try to go for the playoffs? I think they should just, as a Browns fan, I hate to see them lose every week, but they need a new QB. And as far as Deshaun goes, I mean, he just settled this recent lawsuit. Hope this is the last one. But man, he is not clearly the dude he was. He was so good once upon a time, but not now.